Well, hi there. I told you I'd be back. I'm glad you stuck around as well. So we're going to launch straight into it right now. We're going to look in our section 1, we're going to look at mindset is everything. And if I can use bigger, bolder type on that to put my message across to you that this easily is most important part of what we're going to talk about, I would. So as we launch into it, I want you to remember this. No matter if we have to talk about training, volunteers, officials, coaches, executive groups, fundraising, volunteer, whatever you want to talk about, our success is going to be based on how we approach that. And that is the things, the thoughts, the processes, the concepts, the ideas that go between our ears that allow us to be either successful at this or not successful. Now, I've been working in this industry for 30 plus years now, and I've seen not-for-profits who just go higher and stronger than anyone else around them and ones that struggle. And I can say without a word of a lie that the difference between those two organisations is simply the way they think. The way they approach everything they do is different between the successful and unsuccessful. Now, why am I bringing this up now? Well, no matter if you're restarting, rebooting, or just having a re-look at your organisation, you have to look at this fundamental part of what you do and be able to manage it, be able to control it, be able to influence, and all those things in between that allow us to have that mindset of success rather than, oh, everything's bad. And I'm sure that you could quite quickly think of somebody within your organisation that would fall into the everything is bad, it's everyone else's fault except ours type thing. Local government doesn't give us enough money. Lotteries West doesn't. Healthways isn't giving us enough money. The State Sporting Association keeps ignoring us. That sort of person, they're energy sapping, aren't they? So our session today is going to look at that. What can we do individually, us personally, and also as a leader within your organisation to be able to influence and move our thought processes as a group to one of success rather than woe is me. And I'm a big fan of this, that if you want to change your life, you change your mind. And mindset is a flexible mirror. Adjust it to see a better world. If your club is in a crappy situation, you're really struggling, it's probably because of the mindset of the club. Change the mindset and things start to happen very, very quickly. So here's what I want you to do to start off with. If I walked up to you in a street, on the street somewhere, and I bumped into you and I was a new person in town and I asked you the question, what's your vision of your organisation, or what's the purpose? Why do you exist? Would you be able to answer me? And would you be able to answer me straight away without hesitation? Because that's what I'm looking for. If I came and worked with you individually at your organisation, the very first thing that I would ask whoever's sitting in the room is, why do you exist? And I'd be looking for two things. One, that the responses would be instantaneous, not made up on the spot. And number two, everyone in the room had the same answer. Because this is undoubtedly one of the most important things. And this comes from a guy called Stephen Covey. Now, Stephen Covey was a prolific researcher and writer on high-performing teams and leaders. And he found in his book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of the key characteristics of organizations and individuals who were successful above others around them is they always began with the end in mind. Let me say that again. They always began with the end in mind. So if they walked up to those successful groups and say, hey, what's your vision for the future? Why do you exist? They could instantaneously tell you. It was part of their DNA. And the reason you want to be able to do that is because then the next question, especially if you're restarting, rebooting, or re-looking at your organization, once you've identified your vision, once you've identified your purpose, and the question you might be asking yourself, well, what's the difference? Well, hang on, purpose is why you exist, and the vision is how will you know that you've achieved why you exist? All right, so your purpose is I exist because of A, B, and C. And if I know, as a club, we know that we're going to be successful around that purpose, here's what I'll see in the future. Okay, so Google purpose on how to develop a purpose. We don't have time to really go into it today, and it's pretty hard in this format as well. But once you've identified your vision and purpose, and it's really clear, my next question to you at the moment, and again, even if you're restarting from a COVID situation, or you've just taken this chance to sit back and have a good look at your organization, I would then say, okay, what are the essential things that you need to do in your organization to successfully fill your purpose and vision? Now, the reason I say that, and it sounds pretty obvious, doesn't it, is because I would almost guarantee that if I sat down with you, I would find something that it's nice to have, it's nice to do, but it's not really essential and not the essence of trying to achieve your vision and purpose. For example, I just was working with a club just before COVID, and they were a busy club looking after 700 members, struggling for volunteers, etc., etc., etc. And then one of the executives thought it would be a great idea for them to develop their own brand of tomato sauce. And everyone got fired up about this and ran into it. They didn't do any sums, they didn't do any figures, they didn't do any business planning, they didn't even have a look at how long it was going to take or all those other bits and pieces. But this is a sporting club, and they said it's a fundraising thing, but my question would be, well, hang on, is that the best fundraising thing that you could do in this environment? And when they were just about to pull the pin and go for this, and I sat down with them, we started doing some figures, it was the silliest idea. Everyone just got caught up in the emotion of it rather than taking a deep breath and going, well, hang on a second, is this truly what we do? Is this really what's going to make us successful and really fulfill the needs of our members and clientele? So before we move on any further, two things: vision and purpose. Get real clarity around that, and then ask yourself honestly, hand on heart, what are the essential strategies, tactics, and activities that you have to put in place to allow you to move towards vision and purpose? Now remember, at the very beginning of this video, when you saw me face to face, I talked about there's going to be things that you might have to put in short term that may not continue long term. This is it. You might have to put a few things in place right now that really consolidates everything. And once you've got the hang of that and you've got that core business that you are going to deliver really well organized and it's going really well, that's when you can go off and do these other things, but not until it's working well. Please, please, please do that. Now, what do we do with that? Now that we identify the essentials, the things that we're going to do, the key elements of what allows us to reach our vision and purpose, it's now time to build the scaffolding, to build the framework around our organization that allows us to achieve and deliver those essentials. Now, here's the big challenge for a lot of not-for-profits in particular, is that thing on the left-hand side of your screen is challenge the normal organization culture. Why do I say that? Because the human brain loves doing the same thing over and over again. And we could quite easily just slip back into the way that we've delivered our product, our service, the way we've been doing it for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Now, like I mentioned, I've been doing this for a long time now, 3 decades. And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, when I go out to sporting clubs, I'm still having the same conversations as I did 15, 20 years ago. Right? Because we just keep replicating norm rather than do the process that we're talking about today. You need to look at all those essential things: training, your delivery of a product, spectators, volunteers, whatever it is for you, and then ask yourself the question, what is the very best way that we can deliver that and build the structure of our organization to allow us to deliver the essentials easily, effectively, efficiently, and productively? Now, if you honestly ask yourself that question and it comes back after you've had a discussion with your executive group or some other stakeholders, if it comes back to the way that you've been delivering it for 20 years is the best, great, hold on to it, run with it. That's not the point. The real point is to challenge what you've been doing for that period of time, just to check in. is it if it's the very best way of doing it. If you had to take anything out of our 3 sessions together in doing what we're doing, this would be it, is to challenge the culture and the process on how you deliver your product and really have a hard, long look at it from a logical point of view and without the emotion of that's how we've always done it, feels comfortable to me. Logically look at it and go, is it the best thing that we could be doing? And if the answer is yes, like I said, celebrate. If it's no, change and move on, because like we've said earlier, this COVID thing and the shutdown and the reopening could be your one chance to make major change very, very quickly. Here's the other thing I want you to be aware of. If you have people on your executive or the groups that make decisions and really drive the club, and they openly say, we have always done it this way, I want you to do 2 things. Number 1 is go have a chat to them, right? Because these people are toxic. They don't mean to be. Their intent could be pure and kind and everything else in between. But in this day and age where our clients, the people who use our services, want more and they want it done better than ever before, we can't afford to have people whose belief system is the old way is the best way. Can I tell you the truth? I had someone on my executive of a not-for-profit that I'm involved in, where I'm the chairperson, and I heard them say this in the committee meeting. Now, my theory is if they're going to say it out loud in the committee meeting, say it once, they're going to say it a stack more time behind my back and away from the executive committee. So they're going to have a real negative impact. So I went up to them and I had to have a difficult conversation with them saying, this is not the way we deliver our stuff. We're doing too many important things and having too much positive effect on people in the community for us to have the mentality and the belief that this was always, it's always done this way. Now, why am I telling you this? Well, it's for 2 reasons. 1, I want you to check in with yourself. Now, if you're the president or the chairperson or whatever, it's leading a particular group and this is your mindset, you need to change it. Right? You need to lead people into new, better, different, not the sameness. And number 2, if you do have committee members, if you do have key stakeholders within your organisation that are having these conversations, you need to have a chat to them. And if they don't want to change, you might want to look at asking them to leave. I know that's tough, but what you do is way too important to have people like this hold you back. So when we do look at successful organisations, now it doesn't matter if it's a sporting club or a not-for-profit, a local radio, a dog training facility, a rescue facility, or a corporate body. When we look at high-performing organisations, they leave clues. Now my theory is that if we can find out what those clues are and take on the strategies or those clues that they're displaying to us and put it into our own organisation, we can fast track the success of our own organisation a lot quicker than if we have to go through the process of learning it and making mistakes and changing it and all those other bits and pieces. And some of those clues is this, right? And some of these aren't going to gel with some of you. They're going to sit quite, I don't know, strangely with you, is that organisations who are highly successful take 100% responsibility for where they are right now. If they're going bad, they go, well, it's something that we did. They don't sit there and point and blame other people, because things that happen, e.g. COVID, and your response to it is how successful your outcome is. Now, this doesn't say that COVID hasn't been negative. All right, we're not delusional. All right, it has had a negative impact on your club, but how you respond to that, you can either grab your hair and go, oh, it's so bad, it's so terrible. Or you go, well, it's happened, let's move on. Your response is going to almost guarantee which direction your organisation is going to go. What we find is high-performing individuals or organisations run along a continuum at either end of the continuum of cause and effect. Those people who sit there and go, my organisation is in trouble because of COVID, local government's not helping us out, lotteries is not giving us enough money, all those different things, right, they're at effect. They're the ones who will blame the ATO for taking too much money from them, etc. So they're at effect. The external variables are impacting on their world. Same with organisations. Whereas those successful people are those who have a philosophy, a belief. that everything that happens in their world is because of things they have or have not done. They take full responsibility. Now, here's the key. Here is the secret of this little continuum. This cause and effect thing may not even be true. But can you imagine if you had the mindset of effect, the number of options that are open to you is limited. You can only do so much thing. If you blame the outside world for the response that you're getting, then there's only so many things that you can do to get out of it. But even if it's not true that you believe in the cause, that everything you do is your responsibility, you have unlimited options. You can do whatever you want. There's unlimited options. If this option doesn't work, you can choose another one. So it's not necessarily whether this is true. It's about a belief system that will either drive you to success or hold you back. And leading on from that as well is one of Stephen Covey's other models is a circle of control. It's one of my favorite things and has had a major impact on me personally when I first learned it many, many years ago. So basically what successful organizations and individuals do is this, that they ask themselves when information comes into their world or a strategy or a conversation or an email or whatever it is, and then they say, okay, hang on a second, what's happening in this email, this conversation, this thought, can I control it? Now, the only thing that you can control is you, right? Your emotional response and your thoughts are the only thing that you can control. You can't control anyone else, all right? The next question would be, can you influence it? Now, if you can't control it or you can't influence that situation, e.g. COVID and shutting down, you can't influence that. If you can't control it, you can't influence the thoughts and the emotions associated with those thoughts, just let it go. And just let it go and move on to something that you can control and influence. And one of the examples is, we tell this of officials. Officials in sport, can cop a lot of negative feedback. Let's just call it that. But once they step off the field, can they control it now? No. Well, they control how they respond to it. Can they influence it? No. So if I can't control it and I can't influence it, this situation, if someone yelled at me as a referee, then the thoughts and the emotions associated with it, I'm just going to let go. And that's how successful referees can keep doing what they do. Because as they step over that white line, they let that emotion and the thought and the negative thoughts about the game just disappear. And I want you to start doing that as well for you personally as one of the leaders within your organization and also with your committees. I've been on committee meetings after committee meetings after committee meetings where they've spent hours, and I'm not exaggerating, hours talking about things that they have no control or influence over. And it's a waste of time. So I want you as an influencer within your club that if you hear people talking about things that they can't control and influence, let's move on. Ask them to move on. And that is where you're going to get control. Now, can you imagine if we spend most of our time as individuals at an organization in the influence and let it go area? That, ladies and gentlemen, is where you're going to get great success. And the way that we do that is the way that we think. So if we think about the cause or the influencing or the let it go part, we want to train our mind when a situation occurs to go to what we call above the line thinking. And the above the line thinking is easily described as solution focused. That is, instead of talking about the problem all the time, we're going to talk about the solution. So if an organization sits around a committee table and something arises that's a problem, an issue, they have to deal with it, the first thing they do is will drop a line below the line for a little bit and go, okay, what's the problem? Define what the problem is. Now, as soon as they define the problem, they will shoot above the line and then they go, terrific. We know what the problem is. How do we make sure this never happens again? But I am sure, if you're an adult, I am sure that you've sat in a meeting at work, a meeting in a community, or at your family where we've spent hours and hours, sometimes days, and multiple meetings talking about the problem rather than what the solution is. So I want you to, one, individually, to keep driving yourself above the line to what is the solution? What can I do about it? Et cetera, et cetera. And also your committees. So how do we deal with, we don't have enough money. So what should we do about that? What actions can we put in place for allow us to get more funds? See where I'm going with this? Good. I'm sure I saw you nodding your head. Now, this also, when I explain this sometimes, people don't get the true meaning of it sometimes, and that's my responsibility. And this doesn't mean that bad and painful things don't happen or they haven't happened in the past. There's no question about it. But if I can't control and influence what has happened in the past or what's going on right now, I have two choices. I can keep complaining and get deeper and deeper into that problem, or I can go above the line and take the responsibility of how I respond to it and look at the solutions. So these things that I've just spoke about really define where your focus is. And I'm sure very quickly that you can see where the focus has to be if you as an individual and you as an organization want to be successful. And here's the other thing I want you to remember. Now I'm making some assumptions tonight that the people listening to this webinar are those who are in positions of influence. On the executive, are a coach or a referee. Here's the thing I want you to remember, that when you do what you do at the club, people are watching you. And even when you leave the club, people are watching you. They see you down the shops, they see other sports, they see you at school, whatever it is. And you have to make sure that the way that you act and the way that you behave at the club, positively I'm assuming, and what you ask other people to do at the club or at your organisation aligns very directly with what happens when you're standing by the sideline or about to get in your car and you're having a chat with someone or you're doing your weekly shopping. Because if you're in those positions of influence, people are watching, and they are watching for alignment and sameness. So as we move towards the end of section 1, I want you to do some homework. Yeah, it's taking you back to your school days, I'm assuming. I want you to do 2 things for me. The first one is this. I want you to have a think about what is the one thing that you want to do better around mindset. Now that is about you. What, in regards to approaching things, in regards to the mindset that you have, what is the one thing that you want to do better? Write it down, stick it on a sticky note, and then start practicing it with some of the tools that we've looked at tonight. And here's another one. What is the one thing your organization must do in improving the way it thinks about things? What about the mindset of your organization? What does it have to do to move it forward? Get above the line. Think about things that can control and influence or let go of. And get really good at those type of things. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's section 1 done. Make sure you do your homework before you go on to section 2. And if you stick around, I'll see you soon. But if not, I will see you very soon when you come back and do section 2.